Well, good morning. Weather First meteorologist Garry Frank with an update for you. We got severe weather again. It's that time of the year. What's going on? What's the difference from the last couple of days? The other day we actually snuck out of it without too many issues. There will be some areas that I think deal with that again today where you don't get too many issues and you just get some rain. But as we've seen from the Storm Prediction Center, an enhanced risk for severe weather, which stretches as far north as even Pike County. I'm not quite certain that that's the entire area that's going to be impacted. I really think that this is maybe Metro South. We'll watch a couple of things, and I want to explain what a couple of those things may be as we look ahead. And I zoom into a few spots really from Sullivan to Arnold. I think this is the primary area that you're probably going to see severe weather later on today, and I'll show you a couple of the reasons for that. Right now, not much going on, but watch this south breeze, and I'm going to put this into full screen for you and talk about it. And what we're going to see is, you see that south breeze here, storms in Columbia. That is where the warm front is. And as we see that warm front start to surge in, I'll show you a couple of signs that is really starting to make a difference, because obviously we have the wind speed, which is calm in Chesterfield. We have a south wind now in Farmington, Sparta. Mount Vernon is trending to the southeast, but you're also starting to see that as far as that brings some of that moisture in, that's where we see the position of that warm front. So that's what we're looking at here over the next couple of hours here, is where does that warm front go? And you can see that on our visible satellite imagery, that surge from the south is coming up, and then we have kind of an outflow from those storms off to the northwest. As that interacts with the warm front, we may start to see development, and that may at least keep the warm front from hedging too far to the north. We're going to watch those things. Those are the little tiny type things that we see and that we look at 2, 3, 4, 5 hours before the storm. So when you're wondering, why does my area get a storm, or why is there so much uncertainty even at 11 o'clock, that's the type of stuff we look into over the next couple of hours. 53 Kansas City, 56 in Quincy, 70s to the south, even in Rolla. And that's, as we zoom in, you can see where this front is starting to make its way to the north, whereas we're in the 70s. But when you really notice it is the dew points. Low to mid 40s, not very humid to the north, even in St. Louis, but look to the south, locally, 66 in Sparta. That's what we're mainly concerned about, that deep moisture that settles in. And so as part of that front, as it interacts with this cold front, when it comes in from the northwest throughout this afternoon and evening, where does that set up specifically? If this gets further north, Alton, Litchfield, then yeah, we're talking about more significant severe weather for everybody. But if this stays even south, right around 44, like at least at this point, I think that it will, and maybe nudge up on the south side of the city. That's what we're looking at here. Where does that start to work its way in? You can see that in Jeff City, where we see all these different wind direction arrows. It's the position of that warm front. So here's how things may play out. The cold front with that cold air, those temps in the low to mid 50s are going to start to settle in. And by midday, we don't have too many issues. By the afternoon, we'll start to see that front interact with this cold air. And that's where we could start to see a couple of things. Initial thunderstorms developing by themselves, and also this warm front may interact with this cold front, the winds of a different direction one side, winds of a different direction here, and that's why we see the potential for perhaps some larger hail, and also some tornado threat. It definitely exists still. And I think at that point, once we get to the afternoon and evening, as that line settles in, it's not out of the question that this line of storms move through. I think a lot of people, almost everybody, gets some sort of rain. But along where that cold front is and that surge of moisture, that's where we have the potential for large hail, damaging winds. And if we get a storm that starts to bow out in that line segment there, that's where you see the 70+ mile per hour wind threat. Also along the edge of that, if we get a storm that looks like that ahead of the cold front that interacts with that warm front, that's where we start to see twisting on the leading edge of that. And that's where the tornado threat also isn't out of the question here, 4, 5, 6 o'clock. So that's what we're going to monitor continually throughout this afternoon and evening. The warm front is very important on where that all this moves through. By tomorrow, this is all gone. So for our severe threat, it begins after 1 o'clock. I think through 12:30, maybe 1 o'clock, we'll at least see our first severe thunderstorm watch, tornado watch, whatever it may be, maybe the second one. The greatest threats at this point for me are the 60 to 70+ mile per hour wind gusts, especially in that if we get that Boeing line segment that creates wind, and also a 2+ diameter hail. I mean, we're talking big hail isn't out of the question with some of those, especially initial storms that develop before that line and that cold front. Brief tornadoes are possible as well. We'll see how things go. Like I mentioned, it all is contingent on where that warm front pushes through, but those are the main threats here as we look ahead. So as far as what's going on the rest of the afternoon, that's what we're going to continue to monitor. But like I said, we don't have any active watches right now. The Storm Prediction Center will update have another update for us at midday. Maybe they ship this further south. Maybe they do nothing with it. But you know, for me at this point, it is 70 south at the very least from a broad spectrum. And it doesn't mean that some of these spots in St. Louis or north aren't going to be out of the question. And one of the things that people are going to ask, how's this going to affect the drive home? It's going to affect your drive home. It's going to affect the kids coming home from school. There's no doubt about that. Questions, comments, concerns?
I don't have any. Do you have any?
We got a lot of people watching online. So
That's good.
They're all still coming in. They're flooding in.
I'm going to drink this water while you guys.
Someone said hello.
Hello. Yeah, I got no problem just chewing ice and sitting here, but we don't have much going on. It's this cold front that settles in. And you almost see how some of the storm motion is, even in Columbia, as we get closer to this. And even if I just loop this the last 45 minutes, it's probably storms that look like this where we see the large hail possible. Probably the large hail is not going to be more along the line of where that cold front is. But as this interacts with all these different wind directions, not only at the surface but above the surface, that's where we may see the potential for some of those storms.
People that just came in said it's a storm today, chances for tornado today.
Yeah, yeah.
What time is the first round coming through Jeff County?
I would say that's probably not till after 3 o'clock. I would say you're probably going to get some sort of buzz on your phone after 1 o'clock that there's either a tornado watch or a severe thunderstorm watch at that point.
When will it hit the 40 corridor?
40, I would say that's probably going to be, all of the above, I think is probably between 3 and 5 o'clock. Probably be right when people are on the roads.
Any other questions? Will it impact Lincoln County?
Yeah, I think everybody's going to be impacted at some point. It's just everybody's more likely to get rain. I think, like I mentioned, south of 70 at this point, where that front goes and how much more moisture surges to the north over the next couple hours are going to be pretty important on when they're going to do. And that's what they're looking at before they have the latest update at noon that comes out here.
Lauren Hankins wants to know, as far as tornado safety, are walkout basements a safe option?
Yeah, I think anywhere you can avoid the area in your, even in that basement away from windows, not out of the question. You can go into the basement and just try to stay away from the window side of where that is. But there aren't too many windows in a walkout basement, so that's probably still going to be safer than somewhere else in maybe if you can go to the interior of home. But I think walkout basement's just fine. Most people have I don't, fortunately, but not because of tornadoes. I just,
Questions coming in.
yeah.
Okay, so someone wanted to know about 44 going from Eureka, coming into Eureka, if they'll be impacted. Crawford County, Franklin County.
Yeah, I think overall, those questions still, I mean, anywhere south of 70 after 3 o'clock is going to be impacted. I think, it's just a matter of, and I'll show you what this may look like again. I think it's just a matter of, and this is not gospel. This may not be exactly what it's going to look like, but what you'll see by 2, 3, 4 o'clock along that warm front, some of these storms that develop, those are the ones where we can get some really big hail and potentially an early tornado. Then when the cold front moves through, that's when we're going to see that may interact with that warm front and start to see not only straight line wind damage along that by 5 o'clock from west to east, but also as it interacts with that warm front, that's where we could see that initial twisting on the leading edge of that line. So I think our hail threat kind of goes away at that point as far as really large hail. I think that's going to be an early thing. And then so we'll monitor how that sets up for the rest of the afternoon. I really think that once we get past, really for most of our area, I think that past 8 o'clock, everything is relatively good.
Someone asked how fast is it traveling, if we'll see tornadoes. I guess they want to know how fast it's traveling.
I would say these storms are going to probably move 50 plus miles an hour. They're going to be moving pretty fast. There's a lot of, all you got to do is look up, and I could probably pull this up, not that you're going to be able to see this great on on the screen, but just look at how these clouds are moving depending on which one I pull up. I mean, these clouds are moving at a pretty rapid pace just looking up. I'll change the clouds because I can do that. And I got a lot of ice in here, so I can sit here for as long as I want. Yeah, just looking which one. Let's see, this one is good, I think. The one I looked at was Arnold. So the clouds are moving pretty rapidly above the surface. And I think I changed cam 1. Let's go back there.
If you're just tuning in, we're talking about a tornado.
Yeah, so look how fast these clouds are moving. Like, you can just see, you can see them on this camera, you know, or just going outside, you can see how fast the clouds are moving. You know, there's a lot of wind above the surface. That's one of the reasons that it doesn't need to be fully sunny here. There's a lot of other factors in play for storm development. And when the wind's blowing that much above the surface, it doesn't take much to mix down to the surface. And we see those high winds.
So River wants to know, do you think the high winds will result in some power outages in the area?
I would think that's a possibility. Yeah, I would think that's a possibility. Yeah, big things for us. You know, the power outages certainly could be in play. Not out of the question. It's, you know, sometimes we get through these things without power outages. Depends on how the trees are. We've had enough. Some spots have had enough rain recently where the roots may be a little less secure, but also some spots are dry. My house didn't get rain the other day, so.
And then outside of parking in a garage, any tips for avoiding hail?
Don't park under the underpass. Don't even think about doing that. When you're driving on the interstate, it's tough to avoid hail like that. Some people, I've seen creative methods to put on their windshield. Not necessarily towels, but like inflatable pool objects and stuff like that they've secured under their windshield wipers. The worst thing you can do is park under the underpass and block the interstate, and it's going to be something we're going to find on MoDOT cameras that people are doing, and it just is the worst thing for people because then people can't get out of the storm. It's just more of a matter of being prepared for that and trying to find a safe spot that you can park under that doesn't jam up traffic, because then everybody's stuck.
Facebook, our questions are winding down, so.
Same.
Sounds good.
Do you have any more questions about the weather today? From everyone that's watching?
Sounds good. See ya.